He was the king of cool, an icon of rebellion who lived life in the fast lane, both on and off the screen. Steve McQueen was a whole new breed of Hollywood star, an anti-hero whose rugged individualism spoke to a generation that was tired of the same old perfect heroes. But the very rebellion that forged the legend also broke the man. This is the story of how Steve McQueen's refusal to be tamed made him a star and cost him everything. His journey from a traumatic childhood to the absolute pinnacle of fame is a story of incredible grit. But it's also a cautionary tale about a man who could never outrun his demons, a man whose life of excess and defiance culminated in a shocking downfall that still haunts his legacy today. To understand Steve McQueen, you have to start at the beginning, right in the heart of the Great Depression. Born Terrence Steven McQueen, in 1930, his life was chaos from the get-go. His father, a stunt pilot, abandoned his alcoholic mother just 6 months after they met, leaving her with a child she couldn't handle. Before he was even 3, his mother left him with his grandparents on a farm in Missouri. This early abandonment carved a deep emptiness into his personality, a feeling that he just wasn't good enough. He would later say, "When a kid doesn't have any love when he's small, he begins to wonder if he's good enough." His childhood became a painful shuffle between his grandparents' farm and life with his mother, and a series of abusive stepfathers. One stepfather beat him so severely that at just 9 years old, McQueen ran away to live on the streets. This trauma bred a deep-seated mistrust of authority and a fiercely independent, rebellious streak that would define the rest of his life. His teenage years were a blur of delinquency, petty crime, and gang activity. After getting caught stealing, his mother signed a court order declaring him incorrigible, and he was sent to the California Junior Boys Republic, a reform school. He was an outcast at first, but McQueen eventually found a sense of belonging and was even elected to the Boys' Council. That institution left such a mark on him for the rest of his life. He would secretly donate clothes, razors, and other items to the school, a quiet nod to the place that gave him his first taste of structure. But the anger from his childhood was never far from the surface, simmering and ready to boil over. At 17, looking for an escape, McQueen joined the U.S. Marine Corps. It seemed like the ultimate test. Could the untamable rebel submit to the most disciplined organization on Earth? The answer was a resounding no. His time in the Marines was a masterclass in insubordination. He was busted back down to private 7 times and once spent 41 days in the brig for staying out too long with a girlfriend. He joked, "The only way I could have been made corporal was if all the other privates dropped dead." Yet, in a perfect display of his life's central contradiction, McQueen also embraced discipline when it suited him. During a training exercise in the Arctic, his ship hit a sandbar, sending a tank and 5 of his fellow Marines into the icy water. Without hesitating, McQueen dove in and saved their lives. For his heroism, he was assigned to the honor guard protecting President Harry Truman's yacht. The Marines didn't tame him, but they did sharpen his edges. It was there he discovered a love for motorcycle, using his military pay to buy his first bike and competing in weekend races. After his honorable discharge in 1950, he drifted, working odd jobs as a mechanic and even a towel boy in a brothel, before deciding to use his GI Bill funds to study acting. The rebel was heading to Hollywood, and the town would never be the same. When Steve McQueen arrived in Hollywood, the industry was full of clean-cut, traditional heroes. McQueen was something else entirely. He was quiet, intense, and carried the authentic grit of his troubled past. He wasn't playing a rebel. He was one, and audiences were hooked. His breakthrough role in 1958's The Blob had him playing a rebellious teen, a part that clicked with the growing counterculture. But it was the 1960s that cemented his status as the king of cool. He redefined the Hollywood leading man, becoming the face of the anti-hero, a detached, morally gray protagonist who lived by his own rules. In an era of social upheaval, McQueen was the perfect star for a generation questioning authority. In The Magnificent Seven, he held his own against top-billed Yul Brynner, using subtle non-verbal tricks, like rattling his shotgun shells to steal the camera's focus. Then came The Great Escape. The image of Captain Virgil Hilts, the Cooler King, racing toward a barbed wire fence on a motorcycle is one of the most iconic in movie history. While McQueen was a skilled rider and did much of his own riding in the film, the legendary 60-foot jump was actually performed by his friend and stuntman, Bud Ekins. The film made him an international superstar. He followed it with a string of hits, from the sophisticated cat-and-mouse game of The Thomas Crown Affair to the raw, visceral action of Bullitt. The car chase in Bullitt, which he mostly drove himself, set a new standard for action filmmaking and sealed his image as the ultimate embodiment of cool. His understated style, the Persol sunglasses, the desert boots, the Rolex watch, became legendary, defining male fashion for decades. He wasn't just an actor, he was a phenomenon, loved for his authenticity. By 1974, Steve McQueen was the highest-paid movie star in the world, but the same rebellious spirit that propelled his rise was starting to tear him apart. His defiance soured into a toxic mix of competitiveness and paranoia. He famously turned down the co-starring role in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid because he refused to have his name billed second to Paul Newman. When they finally did star together in The Towering Inferno, McQueen allegedly had the script checked to make sure he had the same number of lines as Newman, demanding rewrites to keep things perfectly even. His behavior on set became notoriously difficult. He clashed with directors like Sam Peckinpah, and his jealousy toward other actors was legendary. This burning need to be the alpha male spilled over into his off-screen life, where he lived on a diet of risk and excess. His passion for racing was an all-consuming high-speed escape from his inner turmoil, but it was paired with a dangerous lifestyle. He was a heavy smoker and a daily marijuana user, and by the 1970s, he had a serious cocaine habit. His substance abuse was an open secret, leading to a DUI arrest in 1972 and causing delays on film sets. The rebellion had become self-destructive. His first wife, Neely Adams, later wrote about his extreme jealousy and physical abuse, often fueled by drugs. He was a known philanderer, and his chaotic personal life was a world away from the cool, controlled characters he played on screen. The man who had everything seemed determined to lose it all. After 1974, at the peak of his fame, McQueen just vanished. He grew a long beard and hair, retreated to a quiet life, and turned down major roles in films that would become classics, like Apocalypse Now and Dirty Harry. It was as if he were rebelling against the very stardom he'd fought so hard to achieve. During his search, he found something totally unexpected. He met a pilot named Sammy Mason who taught him to fly. McQueen was struck by Mason's inner peace and asked him what his secret was. Mason replied, "I'm a born-again Christian." Intrigued, McQueen began attending church with him. After months of sitting quietly in the back, he met with Pastor Leonard DeWitt, grilling him with questions about faith and forgiveness. Soon after, Steve McQueen, the ultimate anti-hero, committed his life to Christ. His spiritual awakening was his final, most profound rebellion, a rebellion against his own cynical, broken self. He found a sense of peace that had escaped him his entire life. He planned to write an autobiography and share his new faith with the world, but he was running out of time. In 1979, after suffering from a persistent cough that began in 1978, he was diagnosed with pleural mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer. The disease is caused by asbestos exposure, and it's believed McQueen's exposure came from his time in the Marines removing asbestos from ship pipes or from the fire-retardant racing suits he wore for years. The symbols of his rebellious life, the military and motorsports, had delivered a death sentence. His American doctors told him the cancer was inoperable and incurable. Refusing to give up, McQueen sought controversial alternative treatments in Mexico. Shortly before he left, he requested a meeting with the evangelist Billy Graham. Touched by McQueen's sincerity, Graham gave him his personal Bible. McQueen told Graham, My only regret is that I was not able to tell more people about what Christ has done for me. On November 7th, 1980, following surgery to remove tumors, Steve McQueen died of a heart attack in a hospital in Mexico. He was only 50 years old. When he was found, he was clutching the Bible Billy Graham had given him. So what do we make of Steve McQueen? He was forged in the fire of a traumatic childhood, a rebel whose defiance created an icon and redefined what it meant to be a leading man. His authenticity was his gift, the source of a charisma that still captivates us today. But that exact authenticity came at a terrible price. The rebellion he could never quite contain consumed his relationships, fueled his addictions, and ultimately contributed to his early death. He was the king of cool, a man who lived and died on his own terms, leaving behind a timeless story of a life lived without a safety net, a flawed, broken, and unforgettable American icon. What is your favorite Steve McQueen movie, and why does it still resonate today? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into a Hollywood legend, be sure to subscribe for more stories.